Yeah. Okay. America is usually described as the #1 country in the world. However, when it comes to education, that is not the case. As a student in the United States school system, I have seen its faults at firsthand. Today's education system is not relevant to today and needs to be reformed. Some of these problems are it's outdated and it's not made for children to succeed. To solve these problems, we need to reduce standardized testing and support our teachers. The first problem is that schools are not set up for students to succeed. Children learn in many different ways, and typically these ways are only used to take notes and reading. A student interviewed by the New York Times described his experience as only taking notes and only reading books, which did not help him succeed in class and tend to be ineffective. The start time for schools also tends to be too early for students to learn properly. A study done in an elementary school explained by Paul Kelly showed that students performed at a much higher rate when school started at 10:30 instead of 8 o'clock. Another problem is that schools are extremely outdated. One of these outdated practices is standardized testing. A study by Bacon and Stewart, explained by FFE, showed that most information that students had learned by testing was lost in about 2 years. One of the solutions we could use to solve this would be reducing standardized testing. Capital Reader explains that focusing on testing only math and reading cuts down on the liberal arts, which brings down students' performance. It also shows that when schools are forced to focus only on testing, they inflate test scores, reducing or not properly reflecting how students are really performing. Pittsburgh University also explains a study done at Southern Pennsylvania showing that 91% of students said that grades did not reflect what they had actually learned in class. 92% requested more feedback from their teachers. A second solution would be supporting our teachers more. A student interviewed by the New York Times explained that they do not believe that we can expect good teaching from teachers that are not supported with low wages and less work. Another student also described that she was discouraged from becoming a teacher from her own teachers and did not think that that was the way that education should be. In a world that these solutions are used, would be using modern education. In modern education, teachers would teach more topics that are relevant today, like science and technology. They would be using more techniques where they can learn topics that work through different career pathways. Students would also learn based off of their different learning styles. Madhaven University explains modern education as including visualization, imagining, and thinking, as well as emphasis on written tests so students can explain or can show what they have learned in class. Pittsburgh University advocates for grading based on each student that adds focus and specific feedback per the individual. In conclusion, schools today are no longer relevant and are outdated, and they request reform. Schools today are not based on the needs of children, are outdated. To solve this, we need to reduce testing and improve teacher support. To solve these problems, we need to vote for politicians that advocate for education reform to create a world where anyone can succeed. Thank you guys so much. I'm literally sweating.